My name is Joshua Alex, and I'm a student doing a documentary on child marriage, born and bred in London. Throughout the process of this documentary, I'll be meeting up with youth workers and students to try and tackle the issue at hand so I can gain insight into what could be the driving force for this long-standing ancient ritual and what can be done to prevent something like this from ever happening ever again. I discovered that 1 in 9 children are being sent off to get married, and now that COVID is presenting itself as a threat, I fear the risks could be far greater than I ever could have imagined. Out of all the women who are sent off in their youth to get married, 90% of them are shown to be girls between the age of 8 and 16. The most prominent countries that these types of situations frequently occur in are based around in the US, Pakistan, India, Turkey, Egypt, and most predominantly South Asian and Middle Eastern countries such as Bangladesh, Iraq, Libya, and Yemen. As I search for the reasons behind this atrocious crime, I am forced to face the reality of the situation laid bare by the pandemic. In order to understand what child marriage is like from a student's perspective, I've come to meet up with Kasif Khan to discuss on what he understands about the topic, what are the contributing factors to it, and why he thinks it should be abolished. So from your perspective, what do you think child marriage is? I want to know from your opinion.
Well, I feel like child marriage is something that it should not be an event at all. In this country, not even in this country, of any country. I feel like this is a topic that needs to be discussed more often. This topic that needs to be brought attention to probably millions and billions of people across the world. Because I feel like child marriage shouldn't be something that anybody should be facing in the world. Be it whether you are at a young age. Be it whether you be in studies as well, because child marriage can have such a huge impact on your life, your career choices, and what you're going to do in the future.
Yeah, education is important as well.
Education is a really important thing as well. So I just feel like child marriage shouldn't really be a scenario in this day and age.
Yeah, there can be various repercussions of child marriage, and many reasons why parents send their kids off to get married, which is sad, but it shouldn't be the solution that you go down.
Yeah, I completely agree with your statement. I feel like when it comes towards child marriage, you're not just talking about anybody. You're talking about children who are going to be ripped away of their own careers, their own life choices, their education.
If they get married at such a young age, that understanding of marriage will be taken away from them because they don't understand it fully. And they can't function what's happening to them right now.
Exactly, because you're getting children married when at a point where they don't even know what marriage is.
So, in order for this to be stopped, how would you propose that this should happen?
Yeah, I would propose the idea to anyone really, be a government, prime minister, Mayor of London. I'd propose the idea that we should ban any sort of child marriage marriage acts in the UK, because obviously we can't control obviously what happens in different countries, but if we can do it, if we can stop it in the UK, that'll be a lot more helpful. That will
give a lot of people who are in that kind of situation a lot of hope, because they do not want to go through that. They do not want to be stuck at home with someone who's far more older than her or him, and living through constant abuse and neglect.
Neglection.
Yeah. I believe that due to COVID, I think the risks of sexual exploitation and the increase in violence has risen dramatically. And I think child marriage has had a dramatic effect on that as well, considering more girls, now more than ever, are being sent off to get married. And I think it's estimated at 12.5 kids are going to be sent off to get married by the end of this year. Looking at that, that's pretty bleak. Today I've come to meet Noor El Gwenani, Amina Begum, and Sophia Saeed to come and discuss the repercussions of child marriage and how it's affecting everyone globally.
Like, I want to question the parents. Like, how do they expect an 8-year-old child to have a baby? Like, that doesn't sit well with me.
Because I think, for one, they've been through it and they thought it was acceptable, and they think it's okay for us to continue with their rituals. But because we were born in a different era, we were born in a different generation, we think differently.
Yeah. It's all one-sided.
It is. Coming from the parents' perspective, it is one-sided.
Yeah. I also want to question the dude that actually gets married to a child.
Exactly.
Because, like, what goes through your mind?
If you were told you're going to get married, how would you feel?
Furious. I'll
Yeah.
be pretty angry because it's not my choice and it's someone else's choice. Especially when you get married, you have like a big responsibility. So it's like, I want to be able to choose the person and not someone else to choose it for me.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I'd be completely angry because not only is it like you're taking away my free will, it's that people don't understand that it's for the rest of your life. Like, honestly, rest of your life, you have no choice, but you have to be there.
Even if you are divorced, you're going to be disgraced due to...
But you rather feel disgraced than unhappy in a relationship.
Exactly.
Yep. Honestly, it doesn't sit, as you can see, it doesn't sit well with me. Because, like, there are talks, and, like, this topic does hit home, like, well at home.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, it shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't think people understand that it's different for girls. They take on more responsibility when they get married. Not only do you take on a husband, you take on their family as well.
The boys' side are less, it's more dominant in terms of how we structure the marriage.
Also, I don't think men are that phased because they can go out and cheat. And when they cheat, no one said anything. But if a woman was to go do something, oh my god.
Yeah, they'll be
So
disgraced.
just the hypocrisy of it all.
But also, like, you're marrying a child, that child's still developing.
It just doesn't sit well with a lot of people.
Yeah, and that child, at the end, they might get mental health problems also.
It's not something you can get over anytime soon.
It's a long-term trauma that potentially will never go away.
Yeah.
Especially since what the man did to the child, which is should not even be discussed. As I try and find new ways to tackle child marriage, I've come to Shipman's Youth Centre to meet with Flo, who's one of the youth workers here, to discuss on how child marriage has affected children in the community and how honour plays a big part in that. How do you think children are living now as opposed to lockdown, and how do you think it's gotten worse?
So if I answer your first point in terms of the child marriage, strangely enough, we'll have more discussions with the young women around that, and some of them with their, reluctancy to do that, and a lot of the times there's discussions around their cultural expectations and how they could sometimes be seen as not following the family.
They've been hesitant and reluctant to join.
Yeah. But no matter what the issues are, our doors are always open for young people to be able to come in and talk about some of their issues. But I think more importantly, we recognise that we're not the fountain of all knowledge, and so if we don't know a particular subject, we always refer them to the organisation who could best advise and support.
How do you think the age limit has affected kids on a global scale? Because we see girls from age 8 to 15 or above between 17 to getting married, and how do you think that's affected their psyche?
The girls will mix through education. They're going to mix with their peers, and I think if their peers are not from the same faith or culture, there may be questions asked of them in terms of, well, why do your people do that, and is it right? And I think if you're coming from a place and that's your belief, when your peers are asking you,
questioning your belief, why you do that.
Yeah, it can make you start thinking, well, is this a true friend? Do they really understand?
Or they're out just to get to you.
Yeah, it could be that. And we know that globally there's been a lot of questions around arranged marriage, underage marriage. But I do find it's difficult because we're coming with our Western heads, and not everything that we do in the Western world is necessarily right.
And it's not from the adult's perspective. It's not culturally normal for them.
Yeah, it's not. So I think we need to spend more time. And as much as this has been, this is something that we've known about for years. Time still needs to be given to understand.
Yeah. Because I think at this point in time, we don't know what's going on because child marriage isn't at the forefront of the media, and it's not being spoken about as much as it should be, and it's not getting as much attention or much awareness as such as racism or crimes around London or other domestic abuse.
It is true. At the same, I think it's more on Sky, and in between their programs they have a little clip of a young woman who was actually in that position and decided to leave, and then when she separated from the husband, she was murdered. And so we do know that there's
gratifications for their actions.
And there's many more, and there's also women in households who don't particularly want to be in that situation but can't see no way out, and you've got the whole thing around honour, community respect.
Yeah, because I think the word honour, what are you honouring? You're not really honouring your family's legacy if you're just killing your child just for the sake of your own beliefs.
And because we all have our beliefs, but what needs to happen is that we need to say, okay, do you know what, we're living in a particular country who may not recognise that. How do we make people understand it? And if we can't do that, because I wouldn't go to, my parents are St. Lucia, so I wouldn't go back to St. Lucia and say that the way that you are raising your children within the community is incorrect, and I wouldn't expect them to come here and do the same, so it is.
There's different boundaries, different
levels
of expectations.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much for coming to the youth centre. And I would plead with you, if you're doing anything like this again in the future, to talk to some of the young people and my colleagues and get their views.
I think the main takeaway from this journey for me is that despite all we do to prevent this chaos, there will always be somewhere where this is still happening. And for me, it has been more of a shocking revelation than an educational insight onto what the topic is all about. If you are in need of help or seeking refuge in order to flee child marriage, I urge you to call these helplines so they can assist you and aid you in your hour of need.